Hi, Olly.
Hello, thank you very much for having me.
Well, thank you very much for discovering me, obviously via Rolling Realms, I believe, and inviting me onto your best of the month for February 2022. Very much enjoyed being part of that. I'm looking forward to March. It is now March, of course. That's natural when it goes live. I've already played a game today, which maybe a spoiler. I don't know. Is it too soon? But after having over 2 years, having ordered it from Germany before it hit the UK market, it's Micro Macro. So I finally played the last
Ah,
case.
yes.
I was rationing them. I think I did all the first 15 in by April, and then I waited, and then I then got the expansion, a year later or so. But I just really did wait. I've still got all the promos and stuff for it to play, but that might be my thing. I might do an unboxing for the promos too. But yeah, obviously, thanks for this. We are going to talk about the best of the month. I made a separate list in addition to the list you sent me. So I was going to start off with the games we've played. I think I'm on about 7, you're about 4-ish, but either way, we can talk about what we saw.
Yep.
So I had Unsettled by Rado first off. I know you haven't played it. I haven't because it's too
No,
new.
definitely not.
Any thoughts so far? Obviously, it's sci-fi. It's quite immersive.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like one of those sort of big games that's going to, hog the table in a good way. I mean,
Kickstarter hog.
the way, exactly, the way he spoke about it, you could tell that he really was quite passionate about it.
Mm.
And he had a lot of content, the big main box and then expansion boxes as well.
Yep.
Maybe too much for me. Maybe it's one of those Kickstarters where too much is
Yeah.
there.
I
I'd
mean,
like to give it a go though. You?
it's have you played Vindication? Because it's the same people.
I've not yet. Again, it's another one on the list of I'd like to play, but probably not own.
Okay, so I gave Vindication a 9 out of 10. I've played multiple people's copies. I've never won it. In fact, the
Yeah.
first guy I knew had it. It was an open event, and as soon as they finished, I said, "Oh, I'll play that if you're up for it." And he just taught everyone else out for it again, to do that. It's a sandbox key kind of game where there's a big kind of hex map. It does look very abstract, though, to be honest, considering the theme. And bizarrely, you're not trying to get vindicated. You're trying to just get your name
Okay.
cleared, but not quite the same thing. So redemption, I think, is a better word. But very much enjoyed it. You have to kind of get different colors and then try and make. You have your basic colors, like red, amber, green, or red, blue, and yellow, and then you're trying to make blues and greens and stuff. So it is quite abstract in that respect. But yeah, you can fight monsters, you can go to churches and mines and bits like that. Quite interesting. But yeah, I can definitely see. I mean, I remember Man versus Meeple doing a massive hype about it, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's too much of a
Yeah.
hype." And yeah, actually, it was good. And of course, Tom Vassel's in the same thing. He's already got Unsettled also in his top 10. This might be an American thing. Obviously, Americans do prefer sci-fi. Generally speaking, it's another thing I picked up on my a video recorded earlier, actually, to do with Quest, which will be on the channel in about a week or something. Next up, we had Sleeping Gods. Played that. Views on that?
No, I haven't. I was speaking to Clara ahead of the video, and the more and more I hear about it, the more and more I want to try it. But then
Yep.
it's like, from speaking to Clara, it's like 25 hours of playtime per campaign. And Clara's
Right.
done like multiple of them. And right now, I'd rather play many games rather than commit to that much time. I say
Hmm.
this after doing like all of the pandemic legacies and all of those, which, if you think about it and sit down, it was probably that amount of time.
Yeah.
But knowing it going into it, it's a little off-putting, but it looks gorgeous.
It can be quite. Yeah, I've been trepidous even when I've sat down to play Feast for Odin, knowing it's going to take 5 hours, and then someone drops down Wingspan
Yeah.
somewhere else. I'm like, oh, I've never had that much of a panic attack when it came into it. And we started. Actually, well, I won't spoil it, but there's another game. In fact, it's the game afterwards, which I'll talk about in a second. But Sleeping Gods that I haven't played, I do feel keen about it. I wasn't a fan of Above and Below, and I wasn't a fan of Near and Far. I think they got better, but I just felt that you roll dice, you just need to mitigate them and get a certain thing, and it's more story for me, which I don't know. It wasn't quite what I was after. I do like strategy games, and I'll talk about the next one, which is Draws the Line. So we started playing this yesterday. I play on a Wednesday co-op games. I play Tuesday heavy-ish strategy games, and other days of the week it varies. Lighter games on a Saturday, and various different people basically. In fact, the person I play with a Wednesday, I also play with a Tuesday, for example, typically. And in Jaws of the Line, you also have this mitigation factor, whereby have you played Jaws of the Line? Are you familiar with that?
Not Jaws of the Lion. I've played the big brother
Of Gloomhaven,
of
yeah.
Gloomhaven itself, though.
So I
Um,
found with both the modifiers, I have played Gloomhaven too, and I found the modifying effect, the fact that, oh, I'm going to strategically go somewhere, and it's regarded as a strategy. I've spoken to the designer in person, but about four or 5 years ago, and I've even eaten lunches off big Gloomhaven boxes, pallets of them, because there's no space to sit anywhere else. But the fact is, having that modifier, it just means I go somewhere and actually have overspent or have underspent. I know there's a thinning aspect. We haven't got there yet. But so far, I just felt like, for the time spent playing, could I have done something like Legends of Andor? Are you familiar with that game?
yes, yeah. It's much more sort of co-op-y, I would say as well. My biggest issue with Gloomhaven is the little quirks.
Okay.
Like you're supposed to be the party, but you're not sharing gold and different things like that. Where it's like I get the
Yeah.
reason you're supposed to be an individual, like mercenary, caring for yourself.
Mm.
But at the same time, if that one extra gold means he's probably going to take some more hits rather than me, why wouldn't I do that?
Yeah.
That's my issue with Gloomhaven. I do love the card play. The
Mm.
card play is genius. You
There's
know,
analysis
doing one.
paralysis though a bit.
Pardon?
I think the analysis paralysis though of actually going through all your cards, if that makes
Uh,
sense. You get used to it, I'm guessing.
yeah, I think I'm one of those players that will sort of look at the options and then go, "That's probably good enough. Let's see what happens."
Okay.
I have played, or I should say, attempted to play Gloomhaven with some people with AP, and it was boring and tedious.
Yeah.
We didn't get very far at all because, yeah, as soon as that sort of people start to really try and min max every turn, oh, that grinds to a halt. And when you've picked your cards and you wait for the even two, three, well, even one other person that's just taking too much time,
Yeah.
it is a problem. And I think Jaws of the Lion might be, for me, better suited for me in terms of
Mm.
it's the smaller package, smaller setup time, and everything. So I wouldn't mind people taking time, but when you've already spent half an hour setting up and everything,
Yeah.
and then someone takes too long on their turns, it's sort of doubling down the length of gameplay.
I think when you play against people with AP in competitive games and then they win because they spent so long puzzling it out, that can get to me. That's like, oh, they've won, but they did spend another hour longer than we did. And that's, have you been in those situations? Or
Yeah, you
almost?
almost want like the chess clock approach where it's
Yeah,
like, right, you've got this amount of time, you can spend it how you want.
it does
I don't
have, it
mind
does
it
work.
too much if they're, as long as they are thinking as it's going around the table,
Mm.
and it's not they're waiting for everyone's action to be done and then start
Yeah.
thinking. Because it also means that then I have a lot of time on their turn to plan ahead what I'm
That's
doing.
what I do in chess. I don't like chess clocks, but I just do a quick turn, have that kind of tempo. I mean, as much as I love chess, I know obviously the negative to it is always a better player. But for me, I just like that variety, that strategy, and there's less luck. I don't necessarily have to talk about a combinatorial game, and I know I've got a lot of followers who do like the abstract strategy playlist side of things. It's just something that I enjoy, and since it's quick and it's 20 minutes. But I do like the thematic stuff, which is things like Dead of Winter, extremely thematic. Really get in there. You're in a hole literally in a pub in the middle of October, and you're just playing, and it's just like, wow, we've just come out, we've just been playing this game, and stuff like that. Which leads me on slightly onto the next one, which is mind management, which I have. So have you played? Sorry.
No. This is I really enjoy some hidden movement games
Hmm.
and not others. And I'm
Such
going to say
as?
I don't enjoy Fury of Dracula,
Okay.
which a lot of people love. But mind management, I mean, it looks crazy in a like visually in a
Yeah.
good way, um, but it looks like the sort of one that I would enjoy because it's not too dragged out.
The downside with Fury of any editions I found is some people who have either played either character, Dracula or one of the heroes, let's call them, they've then goofed and they went, "Oh, sorry, yeah, you were a Munich," and I'm like, "Oh, I don't go oh, other people go oh, but I'm representing them," so that can be a shame. In my management, there I've played, I think, the Kickstarter version and a retail version. Minor differences. I've played as a 3, and I didn't like it as a 3. I played it obviously spouse, and yeah, wasn't a fan. As a 2, though, it's a lot more interesting because it's hidden
Okay.
movement, but it's also around. It's almost like social, not social deduction, but you're deducing where they are based on where they've been. There's a lot of Easter eggs. My friend who actually has the Kickstarter version happens to be very into that kind of that theme, and has since bought all the comics. And there's loads of Easter eggs, even on the box, which is really cool. And I am keen to play it again as a 2, but it doesn't work as a 3. It just, because you're trying to do hidden movement, you're then not bickering. There you are bickering, but it depends on playing with your spouse or something, I guess, about do they go there or do they go there? And it's just easier to have that decision. And I think what can also happen is as you do that, it's quite open information, and then the hidden person can then get away from that. And it
Yeah.
turned out how they moved was different to how anticipated. So that's my management. Also, the other hidden movement. So, other ones, what do you like? Do you like things like Spectrops? If you play games like
I
that?
think I think my favourite one is probably Whitehall Mysteries,
Okay.
and it probably does a bit like you've just said. It kind of suffers a little bit when you get above 2. I really like it one on one, where
Yeah.
one person's controlling
Same.
for the want of I think it's the 3 policemen rather than the 3 heroes.
Yeah.
Um, but I do enjoy it above that because if you are that sort of that the Jack the Ripper in that case, you
Mm.
get to sort of hear what the others are doing.
Mm.
Now, on people's first game, that is a problem because you're literally hearing what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
But if you have played it enough, they will bluff you almost and try and
I like to do
make
that.
you think
Go round in
that
circles
it's
around
going
them.
one way. Exactly. But yeah, they work much better at 2 when
Mm.
you don't have to do that communication.
Smoother.
And it sounds like mind management's the same.
It's interesting then about how to. I mean, I haven't recorded it yet, but I have a list of the next. You may be familiar with. Been doing a video a day since May, and another one I wanted to do was things designers need to not do, and that's through knowing, having gamed for about 4 or 5 years with Brett J. Gilbert's sister. I don't know if you know
Okay.
who Brett J. Do you know who Brett J. Gilbert is? From
Well, he's on the at least in the rule book of a few different games, right?
yeah, so he's designed Elysium, so that's SPIEL.digital's nominated game for 2014, which is Z Garcia's like 5th best of all time, and Mike Delisio is very highly rated. Roll for Adventure, he's done the Adventure Game series by Cosmos. Costa Rica, Chocolate Factory, and a few others. I helped him in a play test for Pocket Farmer. So I really like his
Oh
games with
wow.
Matthew Dunstan,
Yeah.
who's also been doing some other
Yes, they
games.
they are sort of they're often coming as a pair
They're great.
design wise, right?
As a pair, I think, aside from Inker and Marcus Brandt, I would say they're probably the best non-married couple. So, um,
Yeah.
so yeah, in terms of hidden movement, I do really like the original Scotland Yard. I've played. I've got edition which I haven't even opened yet, which has the London Underground with a green symbol. So oh, this seems
Okay.
different. So yeah, I'm keen to do an unboxing with that. Go ooh, just because it's that, even though the whole box is crumpled. But yeah, obviously the Spiel is from 1983. So I still like it as a 2, and I haven't shown my parents yet. I'm very keen to play that with them. The next one is the Arctic, which I hadn't heard of. I did a quick look on that.
No, a very small little game.
Yeah, I know there's like a polar bear game, which was some China piece things, but do you know? I can't remember much about the Arctic. What was it about again? Can you recall much
It
details?
seemed quite sort of almost slightly abstract strategy
Yeah.
in terms of very much a 2-player only game, and you're
Mm.
sort of trying to not sure if outwit the opponent, but sort of maneuver around them.
Mm.
It seemed.
Like
Actually,
Fox
let's
and
just
Geese.
have a look because I've got Board Game Geek open.
Yeah, obviously with me recording, I can't do that. But next time,
Yes.
I can be the what's the word, like the pundit or something, the
Yeah.
stat finder.
So a territorial battle between penguins and polar bears.
Ooh,
Each piece has an ability that changes. 8 penguins have 3 abilities, and 4 polar bears have 6 abilities in the irregular abstract strategy game.
that's got
So
me
yeah,
hooked.
it's
Yeah,
it's
what a discovery.
well, there's not many games with that sort of theme in that wheelhouse, at least, there's sort of Ice Cool
Oh yeah, I
with
saw your box
Penguin.
up there. I mean,
Uh,
it's the title
yeah.
itself though, the Arctic. I don't know if people can be grabbed. I know there's a similar two-player, obviously the Lookout series, Great Plains, which Z mentioned, which I haven't played. I know that's going to be the
Oh,
Expo,
you should.
so I'm really keen to try that out. And I know someone who's got a copy. He's got about 2,500 games, and he's been lending me a few at a time. So I've been going through that. The next game I have played, I've given an 8 out of 10 to, which would divide opinion in the house, and that's BSG, Battlestar Galactica. Obviously, 3 hours plus. Views on that?
Oh, I'd say more like 5
I was
hours.
going to say 6, to be honest. Yeah, it was 6 the last time we played because there were some new players. I think our team may have won, maybe with silence, I can't recall. Views on that, though?
Let's put it this way: my biggest problem with the Battlestar Galactica board game is
Mm.
that every time I play it, I then want to go and re-watch the entire
Oh,
series.
right, okay. Yep, I can completely get that.
And if that's the worst thing about it,
Yeah,
it's really awesome. Yes, it's long, but there's some great mechanics in there. Just the way that one card is always put in from like the deck. So even if at the beginning no one's a Cylon,
yep,
you still think there is one because
yeah.
someone's put the worst card possible. Genius. And yeah, it just works on every Battlestar level. It just feels like the series as a game. Absolutely love it.
Speaking of other sci-fi exploratory series, have you heard of or played Star Trek Ascendancy? You familiar with that?
Not played it, but it's the
They,
sort of one
yeah.
that one of the game groups I'm in, a few of them play it, and at some point I'll get around to it.
I'd be keen to know your thoughts because I think it's one of the worst games there is. Even South Park,
Okay.
even South Park say it's like, oh yeah, we're gone for 9 hours doing absolutely nothing because we're playing that. So yeah, it was unfortunately mass. You can be waiting 45 minutes when it's not your turn, and if you try to
Wow.
attack someone, they can just chip away your army, and you literally have like 1 or 2 left. And the rest of the game, you don't get killed off, which you'd hope to happen. They just literally limp you along, and you're stuck like that.
Oh.
And it's
Oh
like,
no.
oh my goodness. And there are very few games like that where I go, I will give it another attempt with someone else. I played it with someone else. It was just the same. We didn't take 9 hours. We took about 6. But the same experience,
Oof.
played as a 3 instead of a 4, and we didn't play with the Borg expansion, I think. But there's that in the Ferengi as well. But even my first game of Terraform Mars, and the same with Great Western Trail, I thought, oh, I'll choose not to go for the cow strategy or whatever, going for many cows. I don't know if that's important in the game. I'll just not necessarily pick everything you need to do in a game, pick all but one. And there are some games where it's best to just focus on one thing, some focus on all of the things or whatever. And I played that again yesterday, and it was a long game, in fact, with another person who took a long time. They won the game though, and I know for most Euro games they're recommended as a 3 compared to a 4, whereas a 4 it can be a bit too long. As a 3, you've got a bit more variety, let's say. But I personally like it as a 2 because it just nips back and forth. Another game, one particular or two particular games which have a huge downtime when you don't have your turn, which you may have heard of them, called Great Western Trail and Altiplano. Have you heard or played either of those?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And
I mean, I haven't played Altiplano, but Great
okay,
Western Trail, brilliant game. I think actually I've played it most at 2.
okay, same. Yeah, over
Um,
half my games now. And what about
yeah, I'd
Grand
say maybe
Austria?
more than half of mine, just because, yeah, like you say, you can actually, it just
80
comes back to
minutes.
you turn
Yeah,
wise, and you're not. Yes, you can sit there and think, but if you keep the speed going, actually, it's a short game
yeah. It's the same
for what it
duration
kind of is.
for Altiplano. It's about 80 minutes for a 2, but it's so long when it's a 3 or a 4. But the
Mm.
Grand Austria Hotel obviously was re-released. Have you come across that in your table topping experiences?
No, again, a lot of these are on my. I want to play them,
Okay.
and then new games come out and they get in the way of playing them.
Yeah, you're always like,
But
all right, I'll get round to that one. So that leads us on to Sobek 2 player, which of course is your pick. I have played it, but I've only played online. I've only played it a couple of times. I lost a game, I won a game. I think the game I won, I can't recall what I lost by, but it was 96 to 60. I definitely got more of a feel for it. Personally, I don't know if I need to play it in person. I've played a lot of Bruno Cathal's game. Another person I've met, he had a cold. Didn't get too close to him at the time. You mentioned King Domino, same designer, so obviously very similar things. Similar to Alexander Pfister, who another game I'm probably going to have to the channel in a week or two will be Cloud Age, which is also by him. So how would you rate Sobek two-player or compared to Sobek and compared to his other games? What would your view on that be?
I think if you're trying to introduce like a new player to the hobby,
Hmm.
King Domino is the better of them, just
Yeah,
because it's so simple. And dominoes, people can quite quickly get
yeah,
that and
match.
match colors up. But there's not too much more. I also linked it to Jaipur, and I
Yes,
think it's a
yeah, yeah,
bit of a mixture of
original.
those because you are trying to get sets, which no one's really going to be unstuck by that. And
Mm,
you're just trying to get some with symbols and then maybe some others to get them sold. And that's very simple mathematics in terms of I've got three tiles, two of them have scarabs on. That's 3 times 2, 6 points. Nice and simple. You're just
yes,
going to get it to the table. You don't need to really explain that part of the game.
yeah,
The characters, you do need
mm,
to explain a little bit. It took a few games to remember what all of the characters do without having to look them up.
yep,
I think the iconography could have been a touch better there, but they then add in that little bit extra that makes it interesting.
mm,
And the whole thing with the Ankh token, where you're actually moving it round the board,
yeah,
and it's that process of I'm going to give you if I take that, it's great for me, but I'm lining you up something that's amazing for you.
yeah. That's the
So I'll
trouble. It's like,
take something, yeah, I'll take something slightly worse for me,
exactly.
just to screw you over.
I don't know what that mechanism's called. It's hard to. It's like it's that kind of thing. Exactly once you've experienced it, playing it or reviewed it. That's it. Like, yeah, play it and you'll experience it, which is why I think digital makes a lot of sense. And I think the original also grew on me. And Jaipur, if I was to lump it along with, let's say, Splendor as well, Jaipur seems to be an outlier in the sense of table presence. You don't have that almost square-like tableau in front of you or a board where you almost have a board in King Domino. And speaking of King Domino, I played it again last weekend, I think it was, and I lost by 1 point, 123 to
Oh,
124, and I didn't have a completed kingdom on that occasion. But I played that before it won the Spiel des Jahres, and that was one of about 5 years in a row when I was like, I played a game before it did go on to win, such as Micro Macro. The game I didn't win at was might have been Wingspan, which we liked. We gave it a 7 out of 10, but everybody who I played it with, like, okay, we don't need to play it again. It might be the groups who I've played it with. I know at a 4 and a 5, it can be a bit not unbalanced, but it's, especially as a 5, I think there's a definite disadvantage people talk about. But it'd be interesting. I might be well trying it as a 3 with the person who won at Great Western Trail. They happen to own it. So we've also then got. Well, I've written Plague Inc. I didn't really talk about the other games, but that's only because that's the only I've played, and I played it when I was away traveling. And it's pandemic-like. Are you familiar with Plague Inc? I know there's an app as well.
yes, you can't quite see it. It's
No, no.
slightly off the shelf. But yeah, actually, Plague Inc. was one of the first board games that I was actually sent as a review copy.
Oh wow.
Um,
Okay.
so yeah, I've kind of got. Although I don't think it's the best game, I do have sort of the reason for it never to leave the shelf.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, it takes the what was the app in terms of maybe not the best theme or topic for right now,
Hmm.
of this virus sort of mutating and trying to become stronger and
Yep.
travel around the world. And it kind of, yeah, like you say, it feels like a reverse pandemic almost.
There are some versions of. I mean, I would like to do a video of all the pandemics, but there's one that I haven't played, so I feel like I should probably wait. Although I have read the novel. Well, I've nearly finished the novel. I'll be finishing it tomorrow, and without spoiling it, I'll do a review. But there's like almost an airlift moment and stuff like that, which is really cool.
Okay, that's cool.
Behind you, you do have Suburbia. That's probably of all the games I can see that I played all of them, maybe apart from one or two, such as Big City, I think it's called. But Suburbia is like the collector's edition, the Bezier Games one.
Yes, yeah. So basically, it's the base game, which is the one that gets played most, and then loads of little expansions. And it's the little micro expansions that you can just throw in, even with a brand new player, that I like
Okay.
that for.
And Icky I have played as well. And who have I? Someone I mentioned who I've played one of their games with. So regarding Icky, what I've noticed is similar to that, trying not to get the best turn but not make it the worst turn. That relates to the fire tracks. And I feel that
Yeah,
I've lost the game literally because I turn over a token, 1 in 4 chance, and I happen to get obliterated by the fire. And I found that a bit too swingy. I don't know how else they could have mitigated it, but I'm aware that's what it is. But another game to come up will be Ecos, which actually is really topical because you've got Space Base, which I did play around, I think, January 2018. I never heard the game at the time, and I don't know how they got this copy so early. They bought it, and similar to me, I tend to check out publishers' websites and like just order it direct, hoping it'll be a good game early on. The trouble with that is, like with cartographers, you go wow for the next 4 months, and then you're on to the next thing, and then by then that point everyone's going wow. Have you heard about cartographers? And yeah, I'm playing something else now. So
moved on.
Ecos, I'm really keen to play it. What's your view on Ecos?
Um, I don't know. It obviously it was Meeple Life that shouted it out in the video. I'm not too sure, to be honest. Some instantly grabbed me, and that one was one that is. I think I'd have to look into it a bit more. Maybe actually, get hands on with the box and look over
Yeah.
the components a little bit more, and that might grab me. I don't know. Did you get that sort of instant? Oh, I want to play this.
Well, the name appealed slightly. I don't know why it's appealed so much. It's not like a major draw. I didn't know if it was John D. Clare, and I've since played Edge of Darkness with the chap who I played with yesterday, and that is a huge mass. That's the biggest table presence I've seen. His son was like, "Whoa, this is taken up like a 3 by 2 meter table. It's ridiculously massive." And it's Mystic Veil chap and various other games he's made. And I don't know. I didn't realize it was him. There was something about it. I can't recall what it was that just seemed of interest. And there's a number of games I know whose I've looked on their like Board Game Geek profile, and I've said, okay, let's play that, let's play this, and I'll come back onto your last game or your second pick because there's a game that I've really liked, which he liked, and then he bought a different version of it, but a different print version, and he was thrilled that we played it and really enjoyed it too. And then on to Role Play Adventure, which I mentioned cartographers. I have played Role Player before, and I recall the scores being like one in it. I may have won it or come second in my first. I didn't know what I was doing. But Adventures sounds of interest. Can't recall much more than that. What's your view on Thunderworks and their games and stuff like this?
Well, I think a lot of their games are really good. Role player, very much enjoy it. Like you say, the scores can be incredibly close,
Mm.
and it really does kind of. I mean, it's not quite the D&D create character. You're doing it for a reason, but it's fun to then add that on the end of, well, my character didn't end up that intelligent, or he turned out not to be that strong, or whatever. So there is that sort of fun aspect, and then the ability to then use it. I believe you can then use those characters in the adventures.
Yes, it seems a bit like you're crafting. I've played Doodle Dungeon, which again you're kind of building a dungeon to trap the hero, which is fun. And I think so. It's Keith Matega. He owns the company. I know he did the original. I don't know if he made this one, but the idea of creating. I mean, it seems quite Sagrada like. I guess the idea that you're filling up things, but it still has that kind of pattern set collection. It's a common popular thing, and I fully understand why people do it. Another game completely different and a complete abstract strategy game is Glux, which bizarrely I think it was identical scores in that game. Very bizarre, really weird. And the guy who I would say he comes across very intelligent. He happened to come last, and I think he had no idea, but it was like 1 point in it, so it didn't really matter. On to a game which we've laughed about before because we've been calling it Death Carnival, which you said the best
It was
board game
close, right?
untitled. Yeah, so Dreadful Circus by Barb, and yeah, Portal, Bruno Fatuti. Played a few of his games. I went as an eyeball on it. Minimum 4 players. That is obviously. I haven't been playing too many games at higher player counts for the last 2 years for obvious reasons. Views? Any thoughts on it compared to the others? How about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm with you there in terms of until the last month or so, realistically, games with more than 3, 4
Yep.
players have been almost non-existent, and it's odd that then there seems to be a few games coming out at the moment which are starting to again be, or maybe they've been pushed back from the last couple of years, that have been, you need 3 or 4 minimum, and it does then make me wonder whether it's actually it's a form. It starts at 4, but do you actually really need the 5 or 6 or whatever to make it good?
Yeah.
That's my concern. The game, it looks very different. It's got that instant appeal from the visual aspect in terms of,
Yeah.
and the hiding things in a box. That was so sort of hide your bids. That was a nice aspect to it. Don't know when I'd ever get it to the table. That's my only concern. I think.
Yeah. It's I think so. With a game like Sagrada, I didn't realize that until maybe a couple of years ago that actually was the publishers, Floodgate, who made the whole layout where you slide stuff in and stuff like that. It wasn't Daryl Andrews, the Canadian designers, who were doing that. I'm wondering again with that box cover, was that anything to do with? Because Bruno for 2D's games can be a bit wacky to a degree, or a bit, or
Which
definitely not.
I think this one fits.
Yes, so maybe they've definitely gone with him on that, especially if it was called Death Carnival. Could have been called Moulin Rouge, you never know. So that's of interest. But yeah, it's, again, I say, yeah, I'll play it if I see it, but equally, what else is there? And again, some games such as Avalon Quest as a 4, not really
Yeah.
recommended. But a game that I have been given, I say I was sent it, but it's not like a review copy. It was because it's going to be my 40th birthday, but my boss has no idea. She knows I love board games. I don't know how she picked such an amazing choice, and that's Destinies. And that's a 1 to 3 player
Oh, okay.
game, and so many
Yeah.
people say, yes, it's so good that they chose to do that, because as a 4, it would be too long. So yeah, I'm keen to see how that goes. And I know somebody wants to play it as a 3. Well, they're one person, but there's somebody else who's involved as well. So let's moving on to spicy. So bluffing. When you say bluffing, I'll get you to tell me more. Maybe in addition to, if you can, maybe even do a recap. The idea that you're playing cards, you're not revealing it, a bit cockroach pokery like. So the game I mentioned earlier, which the other person was thrilled to get a copy of, was called Coup Handle. It's the game that got me
Okay.
into board games, also known as Your Bluffing. You're familiar with it?
Loosely, I wouldn't
Oh
be able to
wow!
tell you the rules from memory, but
How do you know it then? Because I know Z
yeah.
Garcia for many years, and even Tom Vassell. I've had it in the top 100. I spoke to Tom in person 4 years ago, and I showed him a version he hadn't seen before. It's called Coup Handle Master. I went, wow, wow. And he literally
Oh.
said, I've got to get it. So he already told me about Bitter Up, which is the board game version, and I deliberately bought the German version because the art's better. So it goes to show how much I like the
Fair
art,
enough.
and it
Yeah.
matches kind of the original Ravensburger kind of stuff. So how have you become across it? Because it came out in 1985. It was recommended for Spiel.digital, and yeah, I just think it's fascinating. It's in my top 4 of all time for many years.
To be fair, you hit the nail on the head. It was indeed the Dice Towers sort of top tens or top 100 or
Yep.
somewhere along there. It's one of those ones that they've mentioned and is, well, I'm probably never going to be able to play that because it came out a long time ago, and then therefore not all of them are going to be in print. So
You can get it in Germany. I keep seeing it, and they made a smaller box. And yeah, I still like it a lot. And it's interesting. I know Martin Alicio hadn't played it, but it has grown. I played it again last month to introduce it to new people. I just say, do you want to play the game that got me into board games? And it takes under
that's
an
a good
hour
sell.
typically. Yeah, I mean it's just a deck of cards, and you're auctioning, and especially in a public venue, you're saying 10, 20, 30, 40, and it's just works really well. And there's not that much bluffing, at least early on. But there you have 2 zero value cards. So when you're saying I want to buy that off you, you don't know how many cards there
Nice.
are. So that's obviously, I think, where it comes into spicy. Which, if you want to see that, check out Oliver's challenge on Olly's channel over there to do with that. Whereby there are pepper. I know you said I want to say it's wasabi and chili. that the right
Yep,
one?
yep.
Yep.
They're the three suits
Yeah.
as such.
So, how did you
Yes.
discover this?
Um, it's just one of those small box card games, and some
Okay.
of those it's like, well, first of all, you look at the box and it's like shiny gold. The cards are then like even around the edge of the cards, they are sort of embossed with sort of like a gold foil. So it just looks very blinged, which people instantly like. Then the artwork is of these sort of Chinese Asian tiger like great
Motifs.
cats um, eating the chili pepper or wasabi. And like
Okay.
the first card of them is it there, then it's they slowly eat it, and then by the end, the 10th number, like they're spouting fire. You show someone that deck of cards, and they are just like, okay, this looks weird and wonderful.
Yeah.
Sure, let's give it a go. And then you are bluffing from the very beginning. This
Hmm.
isn't a bluff now and again. This is a
Okay.
on, I would say, if you're not bluffing on half your turns,
Wow.
you're skipping your turn to draw a card, which you don't want to do.
I see. And a game that I'm normally good at most bluffing games, but there's one I've never won at, Sheriff of Nottingham. And I feel that you can pretty, and I mean, Skull I've got better at, but I feel that in Sheriff you could pretty much never have to bluff. Kind of. The odd bit
Yeah,
now and again.
in Sheriff of Nottingham, you don't have to bluff, and although you're encouraged to,
Mm.
in Spicy, you won't get it anywhere without it because you've got a hand of 5 or 6 cards at the start. I think yeah, 6 cards. And if you're starting the trick or the round and you don't have a number 1, 2, or 3 in your hand,
Hmm.
you instantly have to bluff that you do. The first card down has to be a 1, 2, or 3. After that, it
Okay.
can be anything higher. Literally go straight up to the 10, and then the round carries on, but you reset at the 1, 2, or 3.
Yep.
Again, if you don't have a 1, 2, or 3 in your hand, you are bluffing straight away. So quite quickly, you have to. And then if you don't have the right suit, unless you're drawing a card, you're bluffing again.
Yep.
But because the numbers and there's so many of each number in the deck, you're never quite sure when someone's lying. And the twist is, even when they are lying and you call them out, you have to say whether they're lying about the suit or the number. And that's the bit. So you can get someone out in terms of, I know you're lying. They could even be like, yeah, I'm lying. But what am I lying about? And you still got to try and like play the odds almost.
Yep.
What's the chances in their 2 cards that they've got left that they actually had the number 10?
Yeah.
Or they still had a wasabi. I'm not sure.
And you never
And then
reveal
you
them.
call them out like that.
So do you ever see?
The only time you reveal is when someone is calling you out, and that's when you flip it
Okay.
over after you've said which is it, and then someone's getting the pile of cards as points, and the other person's drawing some off the deck, which
Okay.
is getting them further away from emptying their hand.
So a bit
It,
Skull-like and a bit Perudo-like to a degree, I guess. A bit
uh, I've
marginally.
not played the second one, but a bit like
Perudo,
Skull.
like Liar's Dice.
Oh yes, sorry, yes.
It's my most watched
Um,
video. I don't know why. It's weirdly weird. I
um,
mean, what's the other game we talked about? Yeah, You're Bluffing is one of my most watched. I don't know why that is as well. Another one, Rivals for Catan. No idea. And
well, the
people
little
opening
the
pack of
little
card
two
sleeves.
player one.
Yeah, that's my favourite. There's 40 Catans out there, and it's definitely the
Yeah.
best. I tell people, if you don't like Catan, you'll like this. But my second
Oh wow,
favourite,
fair enough.
yeah, and it's just I think it's the fact that you don't mess someone over like you can in Catan. You can really like just
Yeah.
hinder them a lot. So yeah, I have walked past Klaus Teuber as well. I didn't say hi to him. I was like, oh, it was kind of too late, but he was like with his moustache like this, so it's quite funny. And I have made my own cards for it as well. But had all the expansions, I had all the deluxe edition and the standard one, which was really good. I'm aware we've covered off everything here, but if you're okay, just for a few minutes, because you have games behind you, and we could
Yeah.
just have this session as our as our, let's say, our lag phase, just to talk about them briefly. So, is that your fourth edition of Twilight Imperium 4? This could almost be yes or
Yeah,
no, but yeah.
TI4. I hadn't played any of the Twilight Imperiums before.
Okay. Me
Always,
neither. Just that one.
I mean, looked at it, wanting to, and then I think the amount of time, like the 8 hours or 10 hours or whatever that they say, is
Yeah.
like, I'm not going to do that. Then fourth edition came out, and the rules were, everyone was like, oh, they're streamlined and everything. And to be honest, after playing 4, I went back and looked at the rule book of 3 and was like, yeah, I'm glad I jumped in now and not previously. We've had 4-player game. I've mostly played it at 4.
Okay.
Most of those have gone on for about 6 hours,
Oh,
even
right.
when there was a brand new player involved. So it wasn't maybe as shockingly long. I've also had one recently with the expansion that went on for the 10 hours.
We have an 11-hour game. Our first, well, as a 6 with 5 new players, and yeah, that was. I happened to win, thankfully. I just tried to rush it, but the second game I didn't. And annoyingly, there was a husband. Well, they're now husband and wife couple, and literally she was saying, and she does this in other games. I never play competitive games with her anymore because she said, don't do this, don't do that. I won't drive you home and stuff like that. I went, oh, all right then.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, and I've seen other situations, and people tell me as well. It's just like, no, you're not playing a 4-player game, you're playing a 3-player game, basically. But those two and the owner, they play a lot as a 3, and they can whip through it in about 3 3/4 hours now, which is remarkable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've
once
also.
You've,
sorry, go ahead.
Once you've learned sort of like the tech trees and stuff like that, and you've actually seen some of the other races come up, you're maybe half an hour off the time, because you've not got that minute here or there or 5 minutes trying to work out what tech should I be getting as this race, or how do I exploit my power. If you've seen someone else play as them, so the more games you play, the quicker it gets, sort of thing.
Same with everything. I remember my first game of Evolution, it was like 2.5 hours. Second game, 1 hour. Third game, 48 minutes. So obviously a bit of a thing going on there. But I know I looked through this other day. I've played 148 games 10 times because Trey Parker said not many people play games 10 times or more. But I use BG Stats, so I'm able to check all that stuff. And all right, what have I done? Oh, blimey. Speaking of a game that I haven't played is Big City. So what's Big City about?
Big City is one of the games, and I keep thinking I'll do like a top 10 of this. Games that I would recommend people play but never purchase. The reason for that is it's one of the Mercury Games Kickstarter, ridiculously expensive, very nice components, price tag ridiculous.
Yeah.
It is effectively a game where you've got these cards that are numbered. Well, the boards are like 10 through to 19. Then on the next board that you're just adding next to it in any way, almost, is then 21 to 28 or something like that. So each board you add, and then there's these cards for each of the plot numbers, basically. And then if you can get 3 of them in a row, so it'll be the 10, 11, 12, or 10, 13, and then another number that I can't think of quite now I'm on the spot, you can trade the 3 cards in and build like a massive residential area or a big business area. And this version has these massive solid buildings that you are plopping down.
Oh, right.
And that's really cool, but it's when at the end of the round you have to effectively give away at least 1 card, and you can give them away either face up or face down, which then determines in the turn order who's taking first from either the rest of the face up or face down cards. So that's from the pile from number 1s, and I'm trying to collect those, and it's all about, I don't want to let you know this is a bad card. So hopefully you'll take it. And then, the production quality is just insane, but the price tag's like 150 quid.
Oh my
Whereas
goodness.
the gameplay feels like if they'd have done different components and it was a 40 quid game, I'd say play it and go and get it.
Makes sense.
Can't recommend it apart from playing it because of the price tag.
Okay, it's interesting you talked about. I'm trying to think of other games because games whereby you play a card and you say, "Do you want this one or do you want this one, face up, face down," kind of thing. Elizabeth Hargrave's second game after Wingspan, which you may have seen, I
See,
did
Musty?
Tussie Mussy, the one I did for the channel, and I thought, yeah, that thought really appealed to me. And I just felt I'm trying to think of other games that do it, and I have played them. I just can't think what they are. But I like the idea of like it's similar to Spicy. It's that kind of I don't know what the mechanism is called. And if there was such a word or whatever it is for it, I think people might try and hunt for it maybe. But again, I don't know if it's for everyone. But I just like that simplistic flow that you can get.
Yeah, another game that does kind of similar would be Hanamakoji,
I have
where
played that, yeah.
you're often offering cards and having to you always know what they are,
Yeah.
but you're kind of having to split the cards or whatever and then choose between them.
Yep.
That kind of has a similar vibe. I do like it. Hanamakoji is one of those tiny little card games that is just you can play this in 20 minutes. Okay, we'll
Yep.
play again. Okay, we'll play again. And it's sort of that big city is sort of that tiny little bit of choosing what you might take for the next round. It's just a small part of it, but yeah, it works really well.
Okay. I recognise your Dixit Camelot Corner, but Warlock I haven't played.
Warlock is actually that's the Warlock tiles system for D&D.
That's what I was curious
basically,
about.
Yeah, 3D terrain, which goes with the that way the tower.
Oh yeah,
I
was thinking of that. That Ticket to Ride Europe, is that the 85th? Sorry, £85 RRP. Is it the 15th anniversary one?
Yes, yeah. There's Ticket to Ride. Well, I'm going to fail at pointing. There is Ticket to Ride Europe.
The other way, yeah.
And then there is Ticket to Ride Europe Anniversary Edition. So I've got both.
Okay.
I'm deciding whether to get rid of the original. Not there yet because, and I did do a video on this on my channel. Basically, went through all of the map packs and tried with the larger anniversary trains, and they don't quite fit in the spaces for the normal carriages, which is really, really frustrating.
Yeah.
So I've kind of kept both at the moment. The new one is it's more colourful. It looks fantastic, and it's probably going to get played the most. I just wish they'd made them, instead of 33% bigger, the same size. And I don't know why they didn't, to be honest.
I know. I mean, I have played all the trains, all the different 5 in the big box, let's call it. I have played the pink trains as well the last time I played it, so that was quite fun.
Yes, the Play Pink.
Yeah, the cancer supporting one, or cancer charity, let's say cancer research supporting one. And I recognise, I'm guessing that is the chameleon behind there. Is that Fog of Love underneath it? I'm just trying to figure what that might be.
Yes, yeah. You've got good eyesight
that wasn't
there.
an easy guess. I mean, literally,
just to pick that out.
Is that Wavelength behind your Ticket to Ride London?
Yes, yeah.
I'm guessing, I can't read the text from here, but Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza from...
Yes, yeah, that's the original one. They did a second edition or a second version with slightly different words, but yes.
Okay, is
that very fast, fun card game, that.
Oh, you've got Micro Macro up on your shelf. Is that Viticulture above something else?
Yes, above Castles of Burgundy.
Aha, Steffenfeld 2009. And at the very top, what's that? Munchkin? Or I don't know what it is, Running with the Bulls?
The very top box, they're above... That's the Wingspan Oceania expansion.
Oh, I haven't played that one yet. I have played the European Birds with Elizabeth's signature, actually, on it, which is quite cool.
Oh, nice.
When I Dream, I really like that. That looks like you've got Terraforming Mars underneath, something sandwiched in between. Is that Captain Sonar? I can't quite tell what is...
There we go.
No, Fort or something.
So yeah, no, we've got the big box and the small big box with all the tiles basically.
Okay.
Because I'd already got a wooden insert for the main box. Above that, King's Forge, which is a nice little sort of dice set collection game.
Vaguely heard about that one.
Yeah, and then When I Dream, which is a very interesting.
It's tough. There's a game called Who Did It, which I'll actually order the German version because it's completely sold out. And that's, you may Blue Orange, but to do with you
Yep.
playing chucking down cards, and you're gonna say who did it. I just really people think you're just playing cards, but you don't have to try and remember. I think something like that. I can't remember. I haven't played it for a few years. And I borrowed a copy to bring to Expo, which I borrowed off them for a week. Anyway, looking forward to getting that again. And below, is it Viticulture? What's the very bottom there? Below, next to Power Grid.
Castles and Burgundy.
Oh, that is. Sorry, I know. So I meant what was above Viticulture.
Above Viticulture, yeah. I mean, you're testing my logic here. Bar and Park, an absolutely phenomenal.
It's that Shine. All right, Phil Walker Harding, nice.
Yes, yeah.
And then next to, I met Frieda in Fries because he grew up close to my wife, about 20 kilometers away. So I spoke to a bit of him in German. But what's that tall red thing? That looks.
That is that Star Wars, Star Wars Risk. So
that is. Is this the 2-player one?
It's it's
Queen's Gambit. This is fantastic. This is so
surprisingly good, to be fair.
It's really good. I remember when there was somewhere in Bracknell, there used to be some kind of department store, and £10 someone got a copy for, and we played it, and I think he lost as the Rebels, and I think I beat him like 6 times. I went, oh, the Rebels never won. Or he told me actually when he got the game, he said, I've played the 6 times, the Rebels never won. But right, I'll try him on. And I happened to win that first game. So then I tried the other side, and then I won the other side. So either he wasn't that good, or I just But I like asymmetric games. I've made a list, I think, of 46, and I feel like I'm going to make a ranking or just talk about my favourite 50. And I might have to ask your sage advice here on: do you think a game like Seven Wonders, whereby you're working towards the same goals, well, Seven Wonders Architect is a bit different, but actually you have variable player powers, or you start differently, is that borderline asymmetry, would you say? Because that's another. It's a very testy subject for some people.
Yeah, it's close enough, I would say. It's one of those ones where if you're starting out exactly the same, maybe not. If everyone has access to those different powers, but then in Seven Wonders, for instance, my wonder powers, you're never going to be able to get that. Like the ones where it's like, if I do this bit of my wonder, I get to take a card from everything that's been discarded. Well, no one else can do that. So there is asymmetry to it, but it's not like Root or something like that, where you're doing something very different.
I've played all 6 of I like Rivervoke, so I played all 6 factions twice. Cat still starts strong, but unfortunately you never really get to play with the same group enough to actually show people that, no, give the cats a chance. I like playing the birds, they're fun. But in terms of Viticulture, that again is, you all started off the same, but you all wake up at different times in the morning. So in a way, you're never the same that way. And even if there was a game whereby, whether or not it's on turn order, there's first player advantage, let's say, or if the next person gets a coin or something, there's still something different. So there's always something different in some respects in asymmetry, but I'm not going to list 2,000 games I might have played. So I need to give some kind of caveat. I think I just need to caveat that initially. So
I think it's the size, maybe. Like Viticulture's got the mamas and papas cards.
Good point, actually. Yeah,
there's a very small thing. It's basically you get 2 coins.
Yeah.
Or you get 4 coins, but I get 1 coin in a building, which everyone's slightly different, but I don't think that's necessarily enough.
We should say Essential Edition to get mamas and papas.
Oh yes, yes.
Obviously, these days we're just saying it anyway. Now, in terms of Viticulture, I like it. 8 out of 10, and I am doing a Stone Myers all their games and ranking them as well, with only one that I haven't played yet. But there is one exception to Viticulture, which is you can win without making wine, which obviously seems a bit weird.
Yep. I love doing that.
That's why I like and I've always never played it with the wine, but I love the Rhine Valley expansion. It's my favourite expansion for any game because it means it's more flowing. It's just better. Have you played with it? Do you like that one?
Yeah, I've got all of the expansions,
Fantastic.
Apart from the one that he's currently working on and should be out hopefully this year.
What is this then? What's this expansion?
I don't know what the new one is. All he said is that he was working on a Viticulture expansion, which, considering what Tuscany and the Essential Editions were, 4 or 5 years ago now, it's impressive that he's going back.
Big box, perhaps.
There's two different ones which are decks of cards, right? Two
There's
different
more
visitors.
Valley as well. The more thingy,
There's
but I haven't played that.
yeah,
What happens in that, or do you like that one?
one of them replaces the deck, and one of them
That's
shuffles
Rhine
in.
Valley. Yeah.
I can never remember which way around it is.
Rhine replaces. I know that, but
Yeah,
I haven't played
so
that.
I think I prefer the more just because it means there's more variety in the deck, and you're not necessarily able to try and go through it and hope for that one card that you really want.
Okay.
Which I think, because visitors can swing viticulture a little bit.
Okay.
Um,
I felt that actually I didn't like the fact that I was never drawing like grapes in regular viticulture, which is where Rhine
mhm.
Valley fixed that. And lots of people found I wasn't alone actually. It turned out that lots of people found I'm just waiting to get Merlot, and then they're just not coming up. So that's what I had the issue with. And I've noticed actually either my eyes have relaxed or something. I've now noticed you do actually have Great Western Trail your top left, your top right, just a
Yes,
peak and
yeah,
half of a cowboy there. So
yeah. The old edition, not the new one with the
that's
awesome little hats.
yes, that's the version we played. In fact, that identical Eggert Spiel edition, which is the same version we have, the versions I've always played historically has been the Pegasus Spieler one. But for some reason, I don't know why. I know the new one is something to do with the artist. I felt that's kind of whatever pushed them to make a second edition. And there's only a minor change, of any. I don't know why they've recreated it as a second edition, not a second print. But it's because the 5A tile has changed. I don't know.
There's a new type of cow as well.
Oh, is there? I missed that one.
There's a new cat. There's something to do with one of the cattle cards has changed.
Okay.
There's the new tile, and there was something they took from the expansion,
Yeah,
but
I haven't played
only
that yet.
one element from the expansion, and put that into the base game. The
Okay.
reason I think they've done it is because over the next 3 years or 2 years, they're basically releasing different versions. So there's Great Western Trail, then there's going to
Yeah.
be like a New Zealand one, and
Yes.
something else. And I think they've done it so that if all visually they'll look the same, or not the same, but be in the same style.
Yeah, Century Spice Road all over again. Apart from those ones, you blur them together, which I never have done, and I definitely prefer the last one. The first one I felt I'd rather play. I think it was Splendor. I think that was the thing closest
They're
to it.
quite similar, yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't feel there was enough of a change. Although that designer, Emerson Masucci, he did Spectre Ops, so we're kind of full circle back partially
Yeah,
to one of our first games. But I think we've covered off a huge amount there. I'm more than happy to chat to you whenever you're free, which at some point, a month and a bit, I'll leave the date for you. And obviously looking forward to speaking to you again. Obviously, it's myself hosting this. I'll be putting Olly's links through, whichever link you want to tell me about, I'll put that in. And yes, anything else to do with Olly and his brilliant, able to narrate and dictate and tell you about games with such fervour, then you can of course check him on his channel, and you'll see me over there again. And yeah, look forward to obviously speaking again, Olly, about the best of the month for March in April. So I'll wave us off and speak to you again soon. So I'll end the recording, and then we can have a quick chat if you like.
perfect.
Okay, all right. Bye for now.